The early morning light streamed into the living room, still filled with unpacked boxes. It was our third morning since moving in. Our new life was slowly beginning to take shape. "Mom, these pancakes are delicious." Alex beamed, his mouth full of breakfast. Pancakes drowned in maple syrup had been his favorite since before the move. I figured having his usual breakfast would help him feel secure in this unfamiliar environment. "That's why I made extra special pancakes this morning." "I'm glad you like them, sweetie," I smiled as I topped off Steven's coffee. As usual, he was silently sipping his coffee, eyes fixed on the morning paper. As a construction site supervisor, he worked long hours, making breakfast time our only chance for family togetherness. "It's nice and quiet around here. The daycare's close by, and shopping's convenient too," Stephen remarked unusually. He was right. This residential area in the Lancaster suburbs was close to what we'd dreamed of. Particularly this two-story older house, with its spacious living room and sun-filled yard, was perfect for raising a family. I was impressed by my husband's ability to find it at less than half the market price. It really was a great deal. "How did you manage to find it so cheap?" "I had a connection," he said proudly. "A construction acquaintance told me about someone needing to sell quickly." Making that quick decision paid off. Indeed, for this size and location, the price seemed almost miraculous. "You really found us a wonderful house." "But what about the repairs? The floors creak, and the wallpaper's old," I asked worriedly. Stephen's face showed complete confidence. "Don't worry about it. I'll fix everything myself. No need to call in contractors. I'm a construction expert, after all." Though something felt off about his words, I nodded silently. I understood he took pride in his work. But his stubborn refusal to allow contractors bothered me. As soon as Alex finished breakfast, he darted upstairs to his room. Looking up from the first floor, I could see him rummaging through cardboard boxes at the top of the stairs. Watching my son trying to adapt to his new environment gave me a sense of relief. Stephen left early for work, saying he'd use the basement as his workspace. As I watched his car disappear through the window, I felt an inexplicable tightness in my chest. This new life in our new home was certainly the beginning of a new chapter for our family. But something felt off. At the time, I couldn't identify what it was. A week after moving in, just as we were getting used to our new life, I was organizing the remaining boxes in the living room one soft spring afternoon. Life in the new house seemed to be going smoothly. Mornings meant taking Alex to daycare, spending the morning shopping at the nearby supermarket, and afternoons dedicated to unpacking. Though my husband was working later nights, I believed it was for the house repairs. A few unopened boxes remained in the corner of the living room. As I opened a box labeled "Living Room, Books" in black marker, I was considering where to place the bookshelf. Alex had just returned from school and was playing with his new toy car while enjoying his cookie snack. Gentle spring sunlight streamed through the windows, casting soft shadows on the old wallpaper. It was an ordinary afternoon moment. "Mom, there's a girl crying," Alex suddenly said. I stopped what I was doing and turned toward my son. "A girl? Where?" "Right here," Alex pointed to the living room wall without hesitation. His gesture was strangely natural. I caught my breath for a moment. Alex, which girl are you talking about? I don't know. But she's crying. My son answered matter-of-factly and went back to playing with his toys. I figured it was just one of those imaginative things children say and didn't think much of it at the time. However, that incident wasn't just a coincidence. The next day, and the day after that, Alex would say the same thing around 3 p.m. The girl is crying. Each time pointing to the same wall. At first, I thought he might have created an imaginary friend. But Alex's behavior was slightly different. He didn't seem scared at all, just stating she's crying, as if reporting a fact. He played energetically during the day, and nothing seemed different at daycare. Though at night, he would sometimes stare intently at that wall. Then I started noticing sounds at night. At first, I thought it was just the old house settling. The creaking floors, the pipes. But gradually, I began to realize it was something else. Faint but unmistakably human voices. Always around 2 a.m. My husband's behavior was changing too. He stayed late more often, saying he was working in the basement. Though the house repairs didn't seem to be progressing, Stephen would go down to the basement every night with his toolbox. Sometimes I'd hear sounds of things being moved. But when I checked the next morning, nothing seemed different. When I asked, "What are you doing?" he'd just answer pleasantly, "Leave the technical stuff to me." Yet I couldn't miss the tension beneath that smile, which was becoming increasingly apparent. Especially when Alex talked about the girl, I noticed my husband's expression tighten for just a moment. Then everything changed that Friday night. I couldn't sleep. My husband was still supposedly working in the basement. As I lay in bed, my eyes open, listening to occasional noises from downstairs. The digital display of the bedside alarm clock cast an artificial blue light. Tree shadows on the wall created eerie patterns as they swayed in the night wind. Outside the window, an almost full moon peeked through the clouds. I noticed my fingertips trembling on the sheets. The strange feelings I'd had over the past week were slowly taking shape. Staring at the ceiling, I wondered. How had my husband found this house at such an incredibly low price? Why did he adamantly refuse to let contractors in? And who was this girl Alex kept mentioning? The clock showed 2 a.m. Thinking I heard Alex talking in his sleep upstairs, I got up to check on him. That's when I heard it. A faint crying sound from downstairs. I crept down the stairs silently. The living room was lit only by moonlight, casting long, eerie shadows of furniture. I stopped in front of that wall, the one Alex always pointed to. My heart began racing. If I listened carefully, I could definitely hear it. Faint, but unmistakably human. Like a small child crying. Fearfully, I pressed my ear against the wall. The cold touch of the old wallpaper against my cheek, a slight dusty smell in my nose. And from beyond, I clearly heard crying. A small child's trembling sobs. My spine froze. Something was wrong. Something was hidden in this house. The moment I had that intuition, suddenly, I sensed someone behind me. Before I could turn around, I was forcefully pushed against the wall. "What are you doing?" My husband's angry voice rang in my ear. When I turned around, I saw Stephen's face contorted in a way I'd never seen before. His eyes seemed to glow red in the moonlight. The hands that should have been holding tools roughly grabbed my shoulders, pinning me to the wall. "Stephen, stop." My voice was hoarse, like a weak scream. I could feel his rough breathing on my face, a mixture of aftershave lotion and alcohol. The moment I tried to resist, my head was slammed hard against the wall. Along with a dull pain, my vision gradually blurred. The last thing I saw was my husband's crazed expression in the moonlight. And just before consciousness faded to darkness, I clearly heard a little girl crying, "Mommy, please." As consciousness slipped away, Alex's words kept echoing in my head. "The girl is crying." At that moment, I still didn't understand the true meaning of those words. When I regained consciousness, I saw a white ceiling. The smell of disinfectant stung my nose. Along with a splitting headache, I gradually became aware of my surroundings. A hospital bed. And 4 lines extending from my arm. Outside the window, it was already bright with morning sunlight. "You're awake," a female doctor in a white coat gently spoke to me. It was Dr. Jane Foster. "You're at Lancaster General Hospital. You were brought in by ambulance after falling down the stairs." Those words brought back fragments of last night's events. The crying from the wall. And my husband's crazed expression. But the stairs. I was certainly in the living room. When I tried to move my head, sharp pain shot through it. My memories were confused. Did I really fall down the stairs? The clock in the hospital room showed 10 a.m. Staring at the white ceiling, I desperately tried to organize my memories of last night. The crying I definitely heard from the living room wall. And my husband appearing behind me. The memories after that were fragmented. I couldn't distinguish what was real and what was a dream. Only the pain in my body clearly told me this was no accident. "Your husband called the ambulance. He said you fell down the second-floor stairs." There was a slight hint of doubt in Dr. Foster's voice. Just then, a young nurse entered the room. "Doctor, the patient's family is here for visiting." "Yes, but before that." Dr. Foster exchanged glances with the nurse, who nodded understandingly and left the room. In the hallway, another nurse could be seen waiting with documents in hand. This was clearly a prepared response. The doctor approached my bedside and picked up my chart. Several photos were already attached to it. I instinctively understood they were evidence photos documenting my injuries. Dr. Foster began speaking in a quiet but firm voice. "Everything we discuss will be recorded. For your safety." The doctor's eyes held a certainty born from years of experience. She was probably used to handling domestic violence cases. "Carol, let me explain your injuries. A severe contusion to the back of your head. Bruising on your left arm that looks like grip marks. And minor contusions on your neck. These are typical." Her words trailed off. "Signs of domestic violence." Though she didn't say it directly, the meaning was clear. As I struggled to find words, the doctor gently took my hand. "You don't have to talk now. But we can protect you." Just then, I heard Alex's voice from the hallway. When I saw my son enter the room with a nurse, tears welled up. "Alex, are you okay?" My son rushed over to stand beside the bed. His innocent eyes showed a mix of anxiety and relief. The nurse watched discreetly from a distance. "Mom, are you okay? Did you fall because Dad pushed you?" That one sentence froze the air in the room. Dr. Foster and the nurse quickly exchanged glances. "Alex, what do you mean?" "Last night, I heard a noise and got up. When I looked from the stairs, Dad was pushing Mom against the wall." My son continued speaking in a matter-of-fact tone, as if describing something that happened at school. At that moment, there was a sound from the hallway, and when I turned, Stephen was standing there. His face was pale, with a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. What are you?" The moment my husband took a step into the room, Dr. Foster blocked his way. "I'm sorry, but visits are not allowed at this time." Her voice carried a stern warning. The nurse quickly gathered Alex close and led him to another room. From there, events moved rapidly. The police were called, and an investigation team led by Detective Mary Wilson arrived at the hospital. Detective Wilson was a woman in her mid-40s, gentle in manner but with sharp eyes. "Take your time to collect your thoughts, Carol. There's no rush." Those words were so comforting. My anxiety and confusion about police involvement gradually eased with her calm demeanor. Next, Dr. Sarah Cohen, a child psychologist, was called in. A middle-aged woman with a warm expression, Alex seemed to take to her immediately despite it being their first meeting. "Alex, do you remember when your mother fell?" "Yes." "Dad was angry and pushed Mom." "Where did you see this from?" "From the top of the stairs. When I said the girl was crying, Dad got angry." Alex's testimony was surprisingly consistent. No childlike embellishment or exaggeration. He was simply stating what he had witnessed. Dr. Cohen took occasional notes while listening intently to Alex's words. "Children this age tell things exactly as they see them," the expert testified. "There's very little room for fabrication or embellishment." Things progressed in an unexpected direction. Based on Alex's testimony, a search warrant was issued for the house. Construction experts were called in, and a wall inspection was ordered. My husband's reaction to this news told everything. "Wait. There's no need for that. The structural issues." Police officers restrained my husband as he desperately protested. His face showed a panic I'd never seen before. The careful facade he'd built as a construction expert was about to be exposed. That desperation seeped from his every movement. "Mr. Watson, this will be conducted legally with a building inspector present." At Detective Wilson's calm voice, my husband momentarily lost his words. Meanwhile, word came that vehicles carrying the technical team were heading to our house. There was no turning back. All the truth was about to be revealed. Stephen's resistance grew increasingly intense. "Don't touch that wall. The structural problems. I'll take responsibility." Watching my husband plead with a desperate expression, I was certain. There was something behind that wall. No, someone was there. Gentle spring sunlight streamed through the hospital room window. Only the rhythmic drip of the four broke the silence. As I lay there, I watched my son's innocent sleeping face. Alex was sound asleep on the cot the nurse had brought in. Whatever the truth might be, I had to protect this child. And perhaps, another child who might be behind that wall. The nurse silently placed a hand on my shoulder while attaching a new four. That warmth gave me strange courage. "Carol, the police would like to speak with you again." The door opened quietly, and Detective Wilson entered. Behind her was Jim Harrison, the building inspector. "Carol, we've made an important discovery in the house investigation." Harrison began his explanation while taking out a tablet. Images of the wall's internal structure appeared one after another. And the final image. A scan showing a space within the wall large enough for a person. My heart raced. Alex's words. The crying from the wall. All the mysteries were about to be solved. "Can you tell us?" That night, near the wall. At Detective Wilson's quiet voice, I gave a small nod. It was time to talk. About the small crying voice I heard behind the wall. And about the cruel truth that had been happening without our knowledge. 3 days later, I returned home with crutches. Though the doctor had ordered rest, I needed to see for myself. The truth behind the wall. The spring sunshine was still bright, and tulips bloomed brilliantly in the garden. Standing at the entrance, what I had thought was normal daily life now felt like something from a distant past. The investigation team was already gathered in the living room, and we watched anxiously as construction experts carefully dismantled the wall. Detective Wilson quietly explained the situation beside me. Stephen had already been arrested and was being interrogated. The wall was removed piece by piece. Reinforcement materials beneath the old wallpaper. And traces of a cleverly hidden door. The building inspector's careful work continued for about 2 hours. "Remarkable craftsmanship," Building Inspector Harrison murmured. What emerged from within the wall was a space that seemed planned from the building's design stage. About 100 square feet. A small ventilation duct near the ceiling, wiring installed, LED lighting embedded in the walls, and even a small ventilation fan attached. More surprisingly, soundproofing material covered the entire wall. Designed so sounds could be heard from outside, but sounds from inside wouldn't leak out. The meticulous calculations of a construction professional were evident throughout. Stuffed animals. My voice trembled. A small bed. Children's books. Toys. And coloring pages covering an entire wall. This was undeniably a space where someone had actually lived. Sarah Brown. Age 6, Detective Wilson said quietly. She was moved to a protection facility last night. Hearing that name, all the previous unsettling feelings suddenly connected. My husband's unnatural behavior. Alex's words. The crying from the wall. All the mysteries converged into one sad truth. In the interrogation room, Stephen began to tell everything. His confession revealed a reality more cruel than imagined. 5 years ago, Emily Brown was a 28-year-old single mother he met at a cafe near his construction site, living with her then 1-year-old daughter Sarah. Emily worked at a small design firm, desperately trying to rebuild her life. Stephen was captivated by her determined spirit, and the two became deeply involved. On weekends, the three would go to the park together, and Stephen began dreaming of a second chance at life. Emily trusted me with everything. Even Sarah. But 3 years ago, Emily suddenly passed away from severe pneumonia. Just a week after being hospitalized. Sarah, who had no relatives, was supposed to be taken to a facility. That's when a twisted determination took root in Stephen's mind. I couldn't abandon that child. I had a promise with Emily. That's what Stephen's confession statement read. Using his construction expertise, he designed a perfect hidden room. He bought an old house at half the market price, renovated it, and continued to shelter Sarah. Every night, pretending to go to the basement, he secretly took care of her. Meals, clothes, education, everything was done in secret. At first, I thought it would be temporary. But guilt and obsession. Perhaps he was trying to atone for his sins by continuing to hide his lover's child. However, that twisted love had warped a young child's life. Would you like to meet her? At Detective Wilson's quiet question, I nodded without hesitation. In the car heading to the protection facility, various emotions swirled within me. Anger, sadness, and a strange sense of mission. Sarah was a smaller girl than I had imagined. Long black hair, and innocent eyes somehow similar to Alex's. At first, she cowered in the corner of the room, but when I offered her the stuffed animal, apparently her favorite from the room behind the wall, she began to open up little by little. We sat facing each other in the small visiting room of the protection facility. Only the sound of the clock on the white wall marked the quiet atmosphere. Sarah would occasionally look up at me anxiously, then look down. In those gestures, I felt the deep scars left by 3 years of confinement. "Are you Alex's mom?" Sarah asked in a small voice. There was a slight hope mixed in her tone. "Yes." "You knew that." I could hear Alex's voice. His playing voice. He always talked about school and his friends. Those words squeezed my heart. The days she spent listening to my son's voice from behind the wall. Sarah's loneliness must have been beyond imagination. The reality of being confined in a small space while hearing the cheerful voices of children her age. Classes. Papa taught me. He brought me books too. But Sarah's words caught in her throat. I found myself clutching her small hand. The warmth of a living hand. Who could compensate for this child's lost 3 years? And the next day, when I brought Alex, what happened would significantly change my life. Alex ran to Sarah as naturally as if meeting a longtime friend. Sarah, though slightly hesitant, showed a faint smile. The two quickly bonded like real siblings. "Mom, can Sarah come home with us?" My son's innocent words cemented my decision. Alex and Sarah were already showing close companionship in the facility's small playground. Sarah had forgotten her initial tension and was building a house with blocks alongside Alex. Seeing her occasional smiles, I saw hope. This wall was next to my room. Yes, I know. I could hear it every day. Then come to my real room next time. I have lots of toys. Listening to their conversation, various emotions churned within me. Anger at my husband, sadness at being betrayed. But simultaneously, a strong sense of mission to protect these innocent children. And strangely, I noticed a natural affection for Sarah growing within me. Certainly, the path ahead wouldn't be smooth. Foster parent application, trials, and above all, healing Sarah's emotional wounds. But I wanted these children to be happy. To live bright futures as normal children. Yes, Alex. That's right. Brenda Martin, the social worker, watched with warm eyes. In her mid-50s, she seemed to understand everything from her years of experience, both the difficulties and possibilities of this situation. Carol, shall I explain the foster parent application process? It will take time, but we'll support you. Outside the window, spring breeze gently swayed the trees. Sarah and Alex played together like real siblings. Their laughter resonated pleasantly. This was our new beginning. A story of healing wounded hearts, reclaiming lost time, and finding new happiness. A year has passed. The soft spring breeze gently rustles the curtains in our new apartment. Sarah's using my pencil again. But Alex's pencils write better. The lively voices of children ring out from early morning. I continue making pancakes with a smile. What Sarah once only heard from behind the wall has now become our genuine daily life. The trial ended 3 months ago. Stephen received a 12-year prison sentence. Charges of child imprisonment, assault, and abuse. His company also faced significant repercussions for a serious crime committed by a construction site supervisor. But that's just a small part of our new life. Alright, you two. Breakfast is ready. The children rush to the dining table, filled with the scent of maple syrup. Sarah's black hair now reaches her shoulders. Weekly counseling has become just another part of our routine. Can I go to Jessica's house after school today? Sarah mentions her friend's name without hesitation. Even now, such ordinary scenes make my heart warm. With support from the local community, she has gradually but surely regained a normal life. After officially gaining custody, I returned to work as a kindergarten teacher. The principal welcomed me back warmly, even arranging a flexible work schedule to accommodate our needs. Mom, help me with my art homework. Of course. Alex, want to join us? Yes. Sarah's better at it. The two naturally lean on and support each other. Blood ties don't matter. The children have taught me that heart connections are far more important. This weekend, there's a barbecue party at the nearby park. An event organized by the church community. The children are already excited, discussing what snacks to bring. Mom, let's make chocolate cookies. Sure. Will you both help? Standing in the kitchen, I look out the window. The spring sunlight is as bright as last year. But we, who receive that light, are definitely moving forward. The calendar is filled with upcoming events. Sarah's lessons, Alex's field trip, weekend church activities. An ordinary family's ordinary daily life. But for us, these are precious, miracle-like days. We can't recover the time lost behind the wall. But the time ahead is in our hands. Let's fill that time with smiles. Mom, today's going to be a wonderful day, Sarah said with an innocent smile after finishing breakfast. I nodded firmly at those words. Yes, it will be. And tomorrow will be too, and the day after that. Our new story has only just begun. In the warm morning light, our new family story continues to be woven, quietly but surely.